This is the jump off point between dreamers and doers. Everything is find outable. You just got to be willing to put the work in. It was lonely and a surprise. Where's mommy and where's daddy and where's coach and where's somebody yelling at me and telling me what I'm supposed to be doing? But before long, the bills keep coming, and if you didn't have a plan, that transition starts to squeeze you. Everybody's an idea guy or gal until money gets involved or a lawyer gets involved. What I thought was normal, there is no normal.
Today on Same Game, Different Turf, we have Nate Hybl, founder of Gustos. We're going to see how this former Oklahoma and NFL quarterback had to find himself at the football. That discovery led him to creating Gustos, fast, healthy restaurant just built on energy and optimism. A guy who used to run plays on the field is now helping people find joy in food all around the country. Take me back, Nate Hybl, the football player. You still throw the ball around at all?
I throw the ball around in the backyard. I have two boys. They're both lefties, which is unique. I'm a righty, but it's weird getting old, man. Like, I still love playing catch, and I still want to place the ball just right. But the next day, even if I only threw it 20 times,
The shoulder.
my rotator cuff, labrum, I'm hurting, and so, but I still love to feel that ball in my hand for sure.
You never get rid of it, man.
No, I know.
You never get rid of it. So you have an amazing career at Oklahoma. You get a chance to play professional football, but then we all have to transition out of football. How was that process of leaving this thing that you've dedicated 20 years of your life to?
It was lonely and a surprise.
Yep.
And where's mommy and where's daddy and where's coach and where's somebody yelling at me and telling me what I'm supposed to be doing? I think there's a scary freedom.
Yeah.
Privilege of a lifetime to be a collegiate athlete and a professional athlete. Amazing, amazing stuff. But there is a scary quiet that comes with freedom. It's like, be careful what you wish for. Tired of not having a life, not having a personal life, really much of a personal identity as an athlete. All of a sudden, bam, who are you? What are you doing? Why? How? And I really struggled for a couple of years to try to figure out what was next. I didn't have a plan, and I'm pissed off about that now because I should have been smarter, but I didn't really have a plan.
It's complicated though, because you're so far removed from the traditional student experience of developing a plan or just rising up whatever the ladder is, and you're on your own. You go from having this high, tight structure to then you can do whatever, and that structure is what allows you to perform. How'd you even start to walk through the decision-making process of figuring out what's next? What was the first thing you think you did after ball?
The natural thing is to tap into your network. Your name has value. I'm from South Georgia, small town, Hazelhurst, Georgia. But I ended up being a ball player out at Oklahoma. I come back to Atlanta, and I think the first thing we naturally do as athletes in our transition is it makes sense to leverage your name or your reputation, assuming it's good.
Yeah.
And try to get in some interviews, and because there's always somebody in some industry that's like, I think we could use Mo, like I think we could use his story. I think we could leverage, it'll be a win-win. And so the first thing that I recall was lining up 6, 7, 8 interviews. But I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but that was the beginning of, I think the first step for me was knowing what I didn't want to do, which was when I saw myself in these offices and I saw these cubicles and I saw everybody wearing the same golf shirt and having the same conversations. I was just somewhere in there. It was at least revealing it so slowly to me that I did not want that. And so, little did I know I was going to end up chasing an entrepreneurial path, because it's very, very challenging and very unique. But the transition for me was interview, ask, take notes, be respectful. But before long, the bills keep coming, And if you didn't have a plan, that transition starts to squeeze you.
So did you feel more pressed to go figure that out, or did you still say, I'm gonna take this more at my pace to land on the thing that I want?
I think it depends on, for me personally, it depends on what's going on in your life. It just so happens that I was at the same time going through a divorce. This is 2009, 10, 11, somewhere in there. There were multiple things caving in on me at the same time.
Yeah.
What I thought was normal, there is no normal. What I thought was normal, which was married, college sweetheart, have a house, Peachtree Hills. We have fun with our friends, search for a job, search for what's next. Basically, our country was going through a recession at the same time, so I'll keep it short, but I had an avalanche of things coming down on me. And somewhere in there, something popped. I all of a sudden didn't care what anybody thought about my career or what I was going to do. It's weird. I haven't thought about this place in my life and these feelings for quite some time, but I wandered around for a while. My life was playing out. I was saying goodbye to a lot of things. And at the end of the day, I found myself kind of in a place where I didn't feel like I had a whole lot to lose. And that was a little bit refreshing to kind of start from ground zero. Yeah, I was still, 6'4", 230 and still like the former football player, and that gets you in some doors. But the real world, like, really doesn't care past that surface level, you know what I mean? Because we all got pressures and we all got, responsibilities.
Yeah. So now, as you got the pressure, and you're thinking, all right, what do I do next? But now you don't care, so you're not trying to go fit in this mold. Move me forward to where you say, you know, this idea of food and clean eating is now the thing that I want to pursue. Um, Take me through that thought process.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was a culmination of a bunch of things. I was at the bottom of the barrel personally. There was a freedom that came with that. My personal life was changing, emptying out. I was embarrassed. I mean, divorce. What is that? And that never was in the game plan. The combination of that, Atlanta was 10, 15 years behind in terms of like healthier fast food. I've been to many places and there were exciting brands and colorful foods and fresh stuff. And for whatever reason, Atlanta just didn't have that. I mean, there was the Moe's and the Willie's and the Tex-Mex vibe, but there weren't more options. And so I still cared about what I was eating.
Yeah.
So the combination of kind of being at the bottom of the barrel, being uh, irritated that there weren't more options in the marketplace, not knowing where to go. I started studying food out of nowhere in my own kitchen, and I started studying brands, and that's sweet greens, the kavas, the chops, the tender greens, a lot of brands that were getting after on the kind of the first wave of healthy fast casual. This is 10, 15 years ago. Everything is find outable. You just got to be willing to put the work in. And so research obsessively, almost to a point of sickness where, all right, this thing's starting to feel like there is a hole in the marketplace. I really didn't say, hey, do I want to be a business person? It turns out, part of my true self is I am an artist by nature. And so I love creating. I love drawing, painting. There was a beauty to creating something of my own.
Yeah.
That's not the University of Oklahoma. That's not Jeff Davis High School. It's not, yeah, I think we did pretty good today, and I love my offensive line, and, our running back core is solid this year, man. This is like purpose and uniqueness and risk and reward, and probably not doing a good job explaining, but the summary would be didn't know where I wanted to go. Atlanta was missing this product mix. I fell in love with ingredients of the world the more I started studying about real foods, and the magic of branding and what Nike means and how Apple makes you feel, and and how this brand moves you, and how this brand has woven its way into the fabric of America. I never really set out to create a restaurant. I set out to build a brand, and that is ridiculous to say out loud when you don't have any money and you don't know food and you've never worked in restaurants.
But they tell athletes there's like certain investments that you should stay away from.
Yeah.
Restaurants being one of them.
Yeah.
Where do you go from saying, I'm passionate about food for myself to I am going to help others on this journey?
The advice most athletes, especially those with money, get is like the the restaurant business appears like it has very little barriers to entry.
Yeah.
And so a couple $100,000, we can be up and running, which is um, bullshit because it's the hardest business on the planet, one of the hardest industries on the planet, after you get through that grand opening. The second is I think a lot of players who are used to being the man or the woman, depending on their sport, the thought of sitting at the bar and having a place and having their name on a sign is a cool new place to be and a new team and a new person adapt. And, the reality is, unless there's a strong, strong business plan and there's a sustainability thought through and there's an exit thought through, that's why like over 90% of restaurants fail. And that's why most advisors would be like, man, I know your cousin really wants to do that, but I believe that's a bad investment. That advisor is probably correct. That's not what this was.
You took what, 4 years and working actually in restaurants and doing all the odd jobs to learn. What was the decision behind like actually going to get your hands dirty or clean
I was crazy.
and still
Now,
not making any money?
yeah, still not making any money. There was multiple things happening at the same time. I guess I had made the decision I'm gonna chase this path. Building this brand called Gusto and whatever that was gonna mean, kind of on a whiteboard behind closed doors. The essence, the magic, what is the vibe gonna be? Working on the food in my kitchen, wasting and spending thousands of dollars, um, going in and exhaustively sitting down with suppliers, supply chain people. They were every one of them the same. Like, who are you and what are you doing? I mean, I could, if they were here, they would tell you like, he wore me out, but the passion was clearly there.
Obsessive.
Yeah. I mean, real obsessive. And so the combination of working on a brand, working on menus, working on names, working on the nutrition piece, the health piece, how do you translate a product into a brand, challenge of a lifetime. So that along with, I went and worked at a fast casual sushi restaurant called Maki Fresh. The guy who had grown Zoe's Kitchen. I don't know if you've ever
I
been to one
remember
of those
those.
early
Yeah.
fast casual
Mhm.
models. And then I went and ran a fast casual Italian brand in town called Little Osio's. And then I went and worked. I walked in one day to the giant called Chipotle, and they were like, "Who are you and what do you want?" And I said, "I want a job." And they was like, "What's the deal?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what's the deal? I love the brand, I respect it, and so I just want to see how you know, I was obviously researching and watching. What I would say is I was beyond humbled. I was beyond humbled in that moment. Like I look back in the kind of romantic years, the romantic time for me because creating and not worrying about money. I drove a busted up white minivan. Ego was gone, you know, making 8, 9, 9.50 an hour, uh, and learning Spanish, being around different groups of folks. Still had that locker room vibe. I still love being on a team and getting stuff done. There is a kind of symphonic, piece to being in the kitchen and how the people interact and how they achieve what they're trying to achieve. But 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears, being poor, trying to unload the first half of my life, personally and professionally, start over. I think one of the craziest things is you kind of disappear from friends and family. I mean, I had a lot of people like, we're worried about him.
That's what what are people around you thinking? Because it's like you go from the highest of highs and there's like You're working.
I'm buzzing around a fast casual Italian restaurant, you know, wiping down tables.
Did you care about their opinion, or did you say at this point in life I'm going for the thing that makes sense to me?
I mean, I think I probably cared, but the spirit and the passion and the obsessive nature of birthing something unique and potentially great was bigger than that fear. It's wild to think about because I probably could have taken the normal next steps, go get these jobs, climb the ladder, make this money, join a country club. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that, but that just I, it wasn't bothersome enough
Yeah.
to where I think I still showed up, took pride in what I was doing every day. I was falling in love with kind of the blue collar nature of the humans in the restaurant space, hardworking individuals. The next challenge was just like raising money and like it doesn't become real. They say everybody's an idea guy or gal until money gets involved or a lawyer gets involved. And so 4 years in, I had a brand deck, I had food to test, and I had found a location across the street from Piedmont Hospital on Peachtree and down in Atlanta.
Why that location?
It was across the street from a huge hospital, so I knew there was baked in business. But between that and there, you don't get many opportunities. You don't have any balance sheets. You don't have any profit and loss statements. You have personal guarantees, a business plan. And so I went to a spot that had been 3 or 4 failed restaurants.
Yeah.
And so part of it was taking a spot that they were having a hard time leasing.
Uh-huh.
And part of it was this is the jump off point between dreamers and doers is are you going to do, you know? And so I drove around in that minivan making food and presenting the dream. Again, not just like restaurant one, but this is going to be a brand. And it sounds, like I say, almost stupid, kind of audacious, but I didn't have a doubt in my mind. Raised 600 grand to open that first one.
How long did it take you to get to there?
Well, a part of that 4 year journey, I would say the last 2 years, I was trying to piece together the legal and the cap table and how much money I needed and finding the right spot. And so here's the deal, man. After all the dreaming, all the emotional woulda, coulda, shouldas, and am I and mom and dad, where are you? And what happened to our sweet boy is like you get to this moment of silence where it's real. You got 600 grand and the juice is running
Uh-huh.
and you got a budget and and so we worked on designing and birthing, you know, the look feel of we're sitting right now in Gusto number 3. This is Gusto Decatur. This is the community I live in. As wild as I thought that ride was, I hadn't even started. I hadn't even started because those first 6 months of restaurant number 1
Yeah.
were probably the hardest years, like months of my life. I mean, I didn't know how to lead that group. I didn't know how to pay bills. I had never been the coach. I'd never been the general manager. I'd never been the president of the university. I've been on the field,
Yeah.
blue 42, you know?
Let's unpack some of that because now you go from player to coach. What would you have to learn about yourself? Of you have to play and coach, but as you make that transition, actually leading an organization versus
I realized quickly I wasn't just the coach. I was the, you know, president of the university. I was the athletic director and things just change mightily when you're executing people's payroll. That was probably the most real. Every other Friday, I'm in the office with an Excel spreadsheet processing payroll and uh, learning about the innards of this beast that I'd created. And I'd say the hardest part, working 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. I was sleeping in the parking lot, still driving the minivan. Ego's gone, you know, but ego's returning a little bit because, you know, my name's not on the sign, but Gusto, it's like a kid. It's like something I created. Win, lose, or draw. I got it out of the ground. Um, and I would say those first 6 months were really, really hard getting people to do what you want them to do repeatedly
yeah.
I can sympathize with a coach, like pulling their hair out and slamming, how many times did we practice this? Well, now my livelihood, the ability to pay bills, the progress, is there ever going to be a Gusto number two? All that was dependent on these 25 people that were strangers a couple months ago. And now we're a family. I need you to oh, really? No, I need you Nate, you pay the bills and you take care of me and I will chop the chicken, of course. Well, we didn't have a lot of specs per se. We weren't flushed out in terms of repeatability, and so it was a lot of fun those first, that first year, but also a lot of pain, and, there was a lot of moments where you could see despite my journey that a lot of people say, "I don't wanna do this." The one moment that I do recall, we opened in the winter, and Atlanta is historically bad in the winter when it comes to fresh food, like, people disappear and they're eating all kinds of stuff. So I knew that spring of 2015 was make or break for us, and my general manager who I'd hired came back from a trip with his wife and said, "I don't wanna do this anymore. This is too hard." And so everything changed. I went back in the office and prayed like one Monday or Tuesday morning, and I'm giving you the short version, but I came out about 20 minutes later and there was a line wrapped around the building. Um, and we were starting to kind of get a foothold in the community. They were starting to understand what the product was. Again, the idea of bowls in Atlanta was kind of foreign. All this is normal now and competition is fierce. But and that moment I knew, all right, the product is good enough and this is going to work. But again, that was just the beginning of like phase 11 out of phase 400. You know what I'm saying?
So how do you have a real business? People are coming. How do you learn the business? It's like, what's your crash course MBA to, make sure you make payroll, make sure that you're managing inventory, making sure that people are, you're hiring the right talent, you're managing the store correctly, all the things that actually go into running a good business.
Living and learning, man. I didn't know. Yeah, I call that first 4 years where I was working on somebody else's dime. That was kind of like my crash course grad school. But you don't know no until again you got to make the donuts and your name's on it. And so my advice would be you got to be willing to bust your ass. That is non-negotiable. I think surrounding yourself with complementary talent is important. I hired Chef Sean, who was an expert at the culinary side. He's still with me as a business partner. So I knew as much as I love the food I wasn't going to be Chef Nate. I knew that so that was kind of like my first decision. And I think over the years, my challenge has been moving away from homemade, meaning I'm kind of a homemade, kind of blue collar kind of guy, can do, I'll figure it out. But over the years, finding smarter and faster ways to achieve things has been a real challenge for me. And so what I tell people is that number one, you gotta write a business plan, like a real business plan. And just as soon as you drop that pencil, that son of a gun is obsolete. I mean, that's just the most real I can say it. But the process of writing it had you living and learning and growing. But as soon as that thing's done, it's obsolete because we're rewriting and recrafting and rewhittling the business plan every day because the business and the brand that we have is a living organism. Um, Not probably the same as having a one-off business or a one-off kind of mom and pop restaurant. That is a project of passion and service and community. We're trying to change the world, it takes a lot of cash, a lot of belief. Still the work is there. That ain't going anywhere. But it takes over the years being smarter and getting out of my own way in a lot of situations.
So Gusto's is at about to be 14 locations. What are you trying to achieve?
That's a big and loaded question. I'll start with our mission is to refuel the world with life-giving food and good energy. And so I think there's a reason why you have missions that keep you grounded. We're trying to um, provide life-giving food to as many people as possible. Now, that gets hairy. There's socioeconomics to consider. There's affordability. There's neighborhoods. There's target customers. There's marketing messages. Over the years, Atlanta's changed so much in the last 10 years. But at the end of the day, we have an exclamation point at the end of our name, Gusto, and Gusto really stands for passion, and exuberance and vibrancy. And so we think we have the privilege to serve people better for them food and the chance to, with our attitudes, make a small dent in their day on the positive side. And in this world that's crazy as hell right now, it feels like it's getting crazier. Dare I say, a moment of hope or brightness or warmth. That is what we're trying to do. And as long as the economics look good, we're going to do it as many times as we can. Yeah, I mean, I think our short term plan right now is we're still. I can't believe it's been 10 years. We're still a little company. Some people get mad at me when I say little. What do you mean? You have X amount of employees. You got, but it depends on your dream. I think the dream was to become a regional brand, then to become a national brand. But the truth is, the patience and the fortitude required to build something that meaningful. There's so many places it can go wrong,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there's so many places you could hop off a ski lift or jump off or stick a gun in your mouth. I mean, like there's so many places. So to remain true to one thing, um, the beautiful thing is I found enough studs that said, I believe in this and I want to do this with you. And the even more beautiful thing is this world is not only accepting, but now more so demanding healthier food. In 2010 and 2000 and 1990 and 1980, they weren't. I don't know what took us so long. You go out west and it's more progressive when it comes to those things, and these ideas aren't so novel. But now, especially following the pandemic, Atlanta is completely different, and so the business challenges and natural transition here is like competition is fierce. We find ourselves being, I would say, a local favorite, but now the Sweet Greens, the Cavas, the Chop, the Chipotles, even the Chick-fil-A's, these cats have massive bags of money and very smart, motivated people. And so now we're in the real estate game, we're in the construction game, we're in the employer brand, game. We're in and so the competition on all those fronts is just, you better keep moving forward or you're going backwards.
So how do you even game plan? When you're playing sports, you can scout your opponent. Have a clean report. You know who you're going to play before the season start. There are no rules in this game. How do you even begin to stay true to what you're trying to do and not play follow the leader, but also understand that there's a food option, good or bad, on every corner?
You got to study your ass off. I mean, this is my response. I told you I'm homemade. And so for the last 15 years, I've been going and sitting at cool, healthy, fast casual restaurant brands and other brands that I like.
Yeah.
I've been studying, but not just I've been studying Peloton for, a long time. I've been studying Disney for a long time. I've been studying brands, what makes them successful. And so again, the answers are in the universe. There's really nothing original. And so we're all just swiping and stealing and borrowing. And so my gutsy answer and my tough answer is, you got to want it, and you got to be a constant student, and you got to write it down, and you got to circle it, and you got to scribble it out, and you got to summarize. And I don't know if you have to be quite as obsessive as most of us entrepreneurs are, but maybe so. You might also have to be a nut, you know? Over time, as you get more pro and you get smarter, I'm still studying, but I'm studying by buying information by, now we're in the world of big data. And so how do consumers behave? Why do they behave that way? What do they think about our product? Why do they think that? I'm still a student. I'm still somebody who just will fall in love. I could sit in a cool branded area, moment, service for hours and take notes. Um, and so I think part of it is a unapologetic student, nonstop. That takes a humility because you can make those answers apply to your version and your flavor of your life or your business. And over time, that has turned into a different, and I would say a little bit more elevated version of studying.
Yeah.
Where is the industry going? Where do we fit? You better be unique, but you better be approachable. And so I'm still studying. It's just different.
You talk about brands a lot and even more so now, but you started out talking about brands back in the early days. Where did that like understanding of brand power come from? And why have you been so obsessive with it to allow you to cut through some of the noise?
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked it to me quite like that. A part of it is I told you I'm an artist at my core, and so I love colors. This sounds like a second grader, but I mean I love colors. I love shapes. I love curves. I love straight lines. I love the way that designers can manipulate and move people's emotions by creation. And so from fonts to tone to BK have your ways jingle that drives me nuts, like all of this is back to brand and creative. And so that's the first part of my entry. I just part of it is how I'm wired. And I believe in the power and the magic of brand. Um, I'm watching with my 3-year-old and 1-year-old right now, the power of Disney just cascade on them, and they don't want out, they can't get out, and they're in love. And what a thing. I think the second part over the years as I've reflected is my dad was my high school football coach, and I never knew it at the time, but everything from the logo to the stripes on the field house to the weight room to the hats and the themes of the year, my dad was a brand guy. I didn't know that, he was a football coach to me and, could be a real son of a bit, but looking back, my brother and I talk about my brother's a head men's golf coach at the University of Oklahoma, of all things. They just won their local regional, headed to the national championship. So
Good luck to
yeah, thank you. And Ryan played golf at Georgia. We talk about this, like our dad he took the Hybl brand, whatever community he went to, kind of like a pastor, coaches and pastors, like it's a Methodist church, but it's pastor so and so, you know? And so I look forward to getting to know you, but I want to know what your vibe is, what is that brand that you take with you? And so sorry for the long answer.
No, I think it's fascinating because it creates the thing that on the surface is a commodity and makes it unique. Where there's a lot of people that serve food, not like you, but and the more that you can get people to understand what makes you unique and what we stand for all across the stack, our food, our people, how we care, the integrity, who is Nate, his journey, all of the above helps you cut through some of the noise.
You got to have brand at least. I say that it depends on the industry. I know some very smart, very successful business people in different industries that are like, stop wasting time on a logo. Just sketch it. We got shit to do. We need to execute. We need to build. And so I don't know that obviously brand is on a spectrum depending on the industry, but I know we're in the consumer space and the retail space, and there is a heart and soul that has to come because if you're selling widgets, it ain't gonna last long.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've learned about you is that you have a very unique perspective, and I've heard you talk about just like finding your identity, your true self as you've gotten older. Tell me how you've got through that journey and what you've learned about this version of Nate.
You got to be careful what you wish for if you go down the path of, seeking oneself because you may not like it. You may not believe it, you may be surprised.
Unpack that a little more. Like, yeah.
I just mean, as an athlete, as a, a strong student, a collegiate athlete, a professional athlete, somebody who'd always been an achiever. I thought that I knew who I was. And the truth is, my true self was as I said, more artistic, more compassionate, more interested in influencing the world in different ways. I'm not interested in the PR side and pop culture. It doesn't really get me fired up. Getting my hands in the dirt and gardening with my two boys. You would have never heard me say that, but like you can kind of meander through life, and when you're 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, 30, sometimes 40, sometimes people never get there. Um, a lot of that, if you're not getting into self-awareness, in my opinion, you're a little bit of what everybody else wants you to be. A little bit yourself and a little bit of the environment. It's like it gets on you, all on you. And so what I would say is in my early to mid 30s, through therapy, through coaching, through humility, through getting on my knees and praying and talking to God, um, there is a return to self that I'm glad I got to. Now, what I say is you might not like it because it might put you down a path of money's not important. Wait a second, I thought money was important. What is it? I thought I wanted a boat.
Yeah.
Then I thought I wanted three houses. I thought I wanted to live in Colorado. Like I think it takes, two moments of courage. One is to seek thyself, and the second is to walk or dance through that fire
Yeah.
willingly. Because again, the world tells you all the things you're supposed to love
Uh-huh.
and want and desire and be motivated to achieve and spend all your time going after. And at the end of the day, I love, I have a random quote. I don't even know who said it, but it's like, whatever you're chasing is not going to offer you the freedom you think it is.
Yeah.
And so for me, part of return to self was, let's do something meaningful that I can be fired up every day that I go to work, and let's have purpose and let's have meaning and let's enjoy it. Now, is it easy? No. Do I have hard days? Hell yeah, but it catches people off guard because they don't see this former athlete, former football player come in and start talking woo woo and, historically soft things. But I really believe there is raw and tremendous power in self-confidence of knowing who you are. And I think ultimately, I'm not even there yet, but I just think ultimately that is where happiness lies. There's a reason why there's all these stories about you work your whole life but you just want to end up quiet on the front porch with your buddy Mo.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
What the hell are we doing? You know what I mean? So
And it gets you to the purest version of yourself where you don't have to think about being yourself or think about what someone else wants you to be, and you're not as self-conscious because you're just living your truth. And
yeah, easier said than done. Like I'm a big believer in the Enneagram test. If you haven't taken that, ENNEAGRAM, Enneagram. It's not voodoo. It's not foo foo. It's not even It's not religion. It's not the moons. That personality test was like looking into a mirror for me, and you may not like it because it will tell you exactly when you're at your best and when you're at your worst, and you'll be like, oh my god, maybe I'm not that unique. And so I think there is a confidence that comes when walking in your truth. But I think the challenge is one of my biggest fears, dude. Here's a different way to say it was, and they write movies about this and books about this nowadays. And there's nothing sadder in my mind than somebody going to work all day, every day, waking up and being 55 and going, what did I just do?
yeah,
What did I do with that moment of time that felt like forever, but it was gone in the blink of an eye? Which is another reason why living life with gusto, squeezing the juice out of life. That's why we're aptly named, I think. But uh, people get defensive and, yeah, what about? And I had kids and I got bills. Fine, whatever. I'm not going to tell you how to get there, but I do believe there's beauty in seeking the truth.
man, I love that. As you get to this point in life, what advice would you give your younger self?
One piece of advice I would give myself is stop overthinking. Overthinking is I'm a culprit of that. I love to analyze. I love to like Tommy Boy with a piece of clay. Like I just beat the hell out of that piece of clay until I know it's right. But the truth is, you never know it's right. And so, what I would tell myself is to move and go. And you hear this from people and speakers often is like, just go and move and always have a notepad with you. Always have pen and paper. Maybe it's on your iPhone these days, but if you're not absorbing and thinking about it and making it a part of your, you know, heart and brain, it's just skipping off the water like a rock. And so always be learning, have a unquenchable thirst to learn, point yourself in the direction of things that are exciting to you. I'll tell you a funny story, dude. Like when I was a freshman, I took a test. That was one of those damn personality tests or one of those career tests. And at the end of it, it told me that wanted to be a marine biologist. Okay. And I'm just telling you, I remember because I had 4% body fat. I benched 375. Like I could throw a football, and all these things. I remember thinking, this test's stupid. What a dumb, I'm not going to be, a marine biologist must be losers, like hippie. I swear to God, those assholes are right. I'm telling you because looking back, I just wonder if in a parallel universe, I hadn't been a quarterback at University of Oklahoma and hadn't been with the Cleveland Browns, hadn't been with Jacksonville Jaguars, hadn't been married, hadn't gone down this path. I just wonder how life would have been had I, because it turns out I love marine life, and maybe I was meant to be a scientist who studies the world, and so I just think that's a good example of, gosh, if you can just figure out a way to turn off the world a little bit. You asked, the question was, what would I tell my younger self? Who's telling you the truth? The world? TV? Books? Your friends? Instagram? They ain't telling you the truth. I know that. So who's telling you the truth? And I think I would say is a challenge of a lifetime to run towards your truth and then be brave enough to take some steps in that direction. I think that's what I would tell my younger self.
Did you see glimmers of liking marine life when you were young, but you just suppressed it, or are there certain creative things that you didn't show anybody?
Those things were there, when I was growing up. Most of the things that I'm passionate about and I'm uncovered and I'm unabashedly chasing right now, these chairs, this the design, this neon sign, these light fixtures, these were all choices that I made and I'm passionate about. There were signs, but when you get in that canon of whatever society puts you in, or you allow yourself, or you go there. Again, I don't have any regrets, but you were just like me. You're going to be the next great wide receiver at the University of Georgia. You're going to do these things. You're going to do here's the next move. Here's the next move. Here's the next move. But I think the beauty of what we're talking about today is at some point everything comes to an end. And you're left with yourself. And that is really that moment, I believe, between you, yourself, and God, where in my belief, you should do some pontificating, and but have the courage. And again, there's nothing wrong with getting a 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with having a normal job. I've had some of those because I had to pay some bills, but for me, it was never going to be fulfilling enough. Now, again, I say you got to be careful what you wish for. I mean, we're in a battle tooth and nail to emerge as one of the next restaurant brands. It takes tremendous amount of blessing and capital and the being at the right place at the right time, the economy, the president, the stock market, all these things are related. And so this journey ain't over, and I'm still on a roller coaster of wins and losses, like weekly.
But I think one of the things that's fascinating is that
you're on that journey intentionally, not because somebody forced you. And what people don't understand is even when you're on the journey you're supposed to be on, life is still going to have its ups and downs. But it's a completely different when you're on a journey that you don't want to be on and you're dealing with those ups and
Oh
downs.
yeah, life ain't perfect just because you are on just because you're willing to go sit on a therapist's couch. I mean, if anything, it's harder, you know. But I think I hate to use the term, well, awakened, you know, being awakened to who you are and what turns you on is part of my kind of life calling from a message standpoint, of testimony, if you will. What you just said made sense, which is if you're more aware, in theory, if I had chased, marine biology, I might have been on fire every day to go put an amoeba under a microscope. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I think it's a funny story because I obviously answered those questions as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, as my heart told me to, and the test spit out what my heart was saying. And I didn't like it.
Yeah. But it's you. Man, I appreciate this. I've been a fan. I see y'all once a week to get my bowl. The staff is always great. They're always friendly. They're always, super polite. So I wish y'all the best of luck as y'all continue to
Appreciate the
go, brother.
support. Thanks for having me on. Any chance I get to run my mouth, kind of spew what I've lived and learned, share this version of a testimony is a real honor. So thank you, sir.
Keep doing it. I mean, we're all in a weird way trying to find ourselves, and we're all on this journey, and life is gonna throw us twists and turns. So keep doing it, man.
All right.